Una spent 2 hours in the garden with the cubs. She played with them. She answered their questions. She showed them pictures of Earth on her small tablet. The cubs gathered around her, their big eyes reflecting the images of blue oceans and green forests and tall mountains covered in white snow. "What is that?" Rico asked, pointing at a picture of a dog. "That is called a dog," Una said. "It is an animal from my planet. Humans keep them as friends. We call them pets." "Pets," Rico repeated carefully. "Do they talk?" "No, they cannot talk like us. But they show love in other ways. They wag their tails. They lick your face. They sit next to you when you're sad." The cubs looked at each other. Their ears moved in ways that Una was starting to understand meant confusion. Tal stepped closer. "You keep animals as friends? Not as food? Not as workers?" "Some animals are for food. Some are for work. But dogs and cats are special. They are family." "Family," Maeve whispered. The small white cubs seemed to think deeply about this word. Caretaker Miro approached them. "Miss Una, it is almost time for the cubs to eat. Would you like to join us for the meal?" Una stood up and brushed grass from her uniform. "I would love to. Thank you." They walked together through the garden toward a large building at the far end. The cubs followed behind Una like a small parade. They mimicked the way she walked. They swung their arms like she swung hers. When she looked back and smiled, they all tried to smile too, showing their small teeth. The dining area was a round room with low tables. There were no chairs. The Valari sat on soft cushions on the floor. Food was already laid out. Bowls of something that looked like purple rice. Plates of fruits and colors Una had never seen. Cups filled with a drink that smelled like sweet berries. Una sat down on a cushion. Her legs were longer than the Valari legs, so she had to fold them in a strange way. The cubs sat in a circle around her, still watching everything she did. She picked up a piece of fruit and took a bite. It was sweet and soft. The cubs watched her chew. Then they picked up their own fruit and chewed in the exact same way, moving their jaws in the same motion. Una laughed. "You do not have to copy how I eat. You can eat however you like." But the cubs did not stop. Copying was not a choice for them. It was instinct. It was how their brains worked after the meal. Caretaker Miro spoke to Una. "We would like to show you the observation deck. It has the best view of the nebula outside the station. Many visitors say it is beautiful." "I would like that very much," Una said. They left the dining area and walked through more hallways. The cubs came too. About 15 of them followed the group, including Rico, Tal, and Maeve. They stayed close together, their small feet making soft sounds on the floor. The hallway ended at a large door. It was made of dark metal with blue lights around the edges. Next to the door was a panel on the wall. It had a flat surface that glowed faintly. "This is a biometric lock," Muru explained. "It reads the hand of whoever touches it. If the hand belongs to someone with permission, the door opens." Una nodded. She had seen similar technology on human ships. "Do I have permission?" "Yes. Coordinator Vel added your information to the system this morning. You can enter any public area of the nursery wing." Without thinking too much about it, Una stepped forward. She raised her right hand and pressed her palm flat against the panel. The panel glowed green. There was a soft beeping sound. Then the door slid open with a quiet hiss. Behind her, 15 pairs of eyes watched every movement. They saw how she raised her hand. They saw the angle of her arm. They saw how her fingers spread across the panel. They saw the door open. The observation deck was amazing. The room was shaped like half a bubble. The entire wall was a window that looked out into space. Outside, a nebula stretched across the darkness. It was made of purple and pink and blue gases that swirled together like paint in water. Stars glowed inside the gas clouds, making them shine. "Oh," Una breathed. "It is beautiful." The cubs ran to the window. They pressed their small faces against the glass. Their breath made little clouds of fog on the surface. "What is that?" Rico asked, pointing at the nebula. "It is called a nebula," Una said, walking to stand beside him. "It is a cloud in space. A very, very big cloud made of gas and dust. Sometimes new stars are born inside nebulas." "Stars are born?" Tal sounded amazed. "Stars are like babies." Una smiled. "In a way, yes. Everything in the universe is born, lives, and dies. Even stars." The cubs were quiet for a moment. They seemed to be thinking about this idea. Then Meave spoke. "Do stars have parents?" Una thought about how to answer. "Not like your parents or my parents. But the matter that makes stars comes from older stars that died long ago. So in a way, old stars give birth to new stars." "Stars are family," Meave said softly. "Like your dogs." Una felt something warm in her heart. Children, no matter what planet they came from, always found ways to connect ideas in beautiful ways. They stayed on the observation deck for a long time. Una told the cubs about space and stars and planets. She told them about Earth and humans and how her people had dreamed of the stars for thousands of years before finally reaching them. The cubs listened to every word. But they were not just listening. They were watching. They were learning. Eventually, Caretaker Miru said it was time for the cubs to rest. The Valari had a tradition of afternoon sleep. All cubs took naps after lunch to help them grow strong. "I will walk you back to the main entrance," Miru said to Una. They left the observation deck. Una pressed her hand on the panel again to open the door on the way out. The cubs watched. They always watched. The walk back was peaceful. The cubs were getting sleepy. Their steps were slower. Their eyes were half closed. Some of them yawned, showing their small pink tongues dot at the entrance to the nursery wing. Una stopped. She knelt down to be at the cubs' level one more time. "Thank you for letting me visit today," she said. "I had a wonderful time with all of you." Rico stepped forward. He raised a small paw and waved, just like Una had waved when she first arrived. "Goodbye, Una." "Goodbye," the other cubs echoed. "Goodbye, Una. Goodbye." Una waved back. "Goodbye, little ones. Sleep well." She stood and walked through the door. It closed behind her, and she was alone in the hallway outside. She took a deep breath and smiled to herself. The visit had gone perfectly. The cubs were adorable. The Valari were kind. Everything was wonderful. She did not know that 3 little cubs were not going to sleep. Rico, Tal, and Meave had other plans. Inside the nursery wing, the cubs were taken to their sleeping room. Soft beds were lined up in rows. Warm blankets waited for small bodies. The lights dimmed to a gentle glow. Caretaker Miru walked between the beds, making sure each cub was comfortable. She sang a soft song, a Valari lullaby about forests and moonlight and dreams of flying. Most of the cubs fell asleep quickly, but 3 of them stayed awake. They lay in their beds with their eyes open, looking at each other across the room. Rico, Tal, and Meave had learned something new today. They had learned about door panels, about pressing hands against glowing surfaces, about making doors open. They waited until Caretaker Miru left the room. They waited until the other cubs were asleep. Then, slowly and quietly, they climbed out of their beds. Rico led the way. He was the bravest of the 3. He walked on soft feet to the door of the sleeping room. There was a panel next to it, just like the panel Una had used. He looked at Tal and Meave. They nodded at him. Rico raised his small paw. He remembered exactly how Una had done it. He spread his fingers as wide as they could go. He pressed his palm flat against the panel. The panel glowed, but it did not turn green. It turned yellow. What does yellow mean? Tal whispered. I do not know, Rico admitted. But the door did not open. Meve stepped forward. Let me try. She pressed her paw against the panel. Yellow again. Tal tried next. Yellow. Maybe we need to try together, Rico suggested. All three cubs pressed their paws against the panel at the same time. The panel flickered. Colors danced across its surface. Yellow, orange, red. Then finally, a loud alarm began to sound. The cubs jumped back from the panel. Their ears pressed flat against their heads in fear. Red lights flashed in the ceiling. A voice spoke from everywhere at once. Warning. Unknown biometric signatures detected. Emergency protocol activated. Wing lockdown in progress. All around the nursery wing, doors began to close. Heavy metal barriers dropped from the ceilings. Windows sealed themselves with thick shutters. Every exit locked itself tight in her quarters across the station. Yuna heard the alarm. She sat up from her bed, where she had been resting. Her heart began to race. What is happening? She asked out loud. Her communicator beeped. A message appeared on the screen. It was from station security. All personnel be advised. The nursery wing is in full lockdown. Cause unknown. All entrances sealed. Repeat, all entrances sealed. Yuna felt ice in her stomach. The cubs were inside. She grabbed her communicator and ran out of her quarters. She had to help. She had to do something. She did not know yet that this was all because of her. Because of one simple movement of her hand. Because three little cubs had been watching. 3 days passed since the lockdown incident. Unity Station returned to normal. Ships came and went. Meetings were held. Treaties were signed. Life continued as it always did, but something had changed. People talked about what happened in the nursery wing. The story spread across the station, from species to species, from ship to ship. A human had caused a problem, and then that same human had fixed it. She had gone into a locked room full of scared children and calmed them with nothing but kindness and patience. Yuna did not feel like a hero. She felt tired. She felt guilty. She felt like she had made a terrible mistake and only barely managed to fix it. Every night, she dreamed of the cubs crying in the red light. Every morning, she woke up with a heavy heart. On the third day, she received a message. The Valari delegation wanted to meet with her. Ambassador Kiro himself had requested her presence. Yuna put on her best uniform. She fixed her hair carefully. She walked to the meeting room with slow steps, preparing herself for punishment. The meeting room was large and beautiful. Tall windows showed the nebula outside, purple and pink and endless. A long table sat in the center of the room, made of dark wood that had been brought from the Valari home world. Ambassador Kiro sat at the head of the table. Around him sat other important Valari. They wore their finest robes. Their faces were serious. Yuna entered and bowed deeply. Ambassador Kiro, you wish to see me? Sit, Kiro said, pointing to a chair across from him. Yuna sat. She kept her back straight and her hands folded in her lap. She waited for him to speak. Kiro was quiet for a long moment. He studied her face, just as he had done 3 days ago. But this time, his eyes were not cold. They were thoughtful. Do you know why we Valari brought our cubs to this station? He asked finally. Yuna shook her head. I thought it was for them to watch and learn. That is part of it. But there is another reason. Kiro leaned back in his chair. Our species is very old, Miss Yuna. We have traveled the stars for thousands of years. We have seen empires rise and fall. We have watched young species make their first steps into space. We have seen it all before. He paused, looking out the window at the stars. And in all those years, we have learned one truth. The galaxy is a dangerous place. It is full of species who take what they want. Species who hurt others without thinking. Species who see children as tools or burdens. We brought our cubs here to show them this truth. To teach them that the galaxy is harsh and that they must be careful. Una felt her heart sink. And then I proved your point. A human came, acted without thinking, and put your children in danger. That is what I thought at first, Caro admitted. When the lockdown began, I was furious. I thought, here is the proof. Humans are reckless. They are dangerous. They cannot be trusted around our young. He turned to look at her directly. But then you did something I did not expect. Una stayed silent, waiting. You came back. You found a way inside. You faced 37 terrified children, and you did not run away. You did not blame them for their mistake. You taught them. You showed them that mistakes can be fixed. You showed them courage and patience and love. Kiro's voice softened. It was strange to hear such gentleness from a being who had seemed so cold. My cubs learn more from you in one day than they have learned from me in a year. Rico has not stopped talking about you. He says he wants to be brave like Una. Tal says she wants to visit Earth someday. And Meave, little Meave, has started speaking more. She was always so quiet. But now she talks about stars and dogs and family. He stood up from his chair. The other Valari stood with him. They all faced Una. We came here to teach our children that the galaxy is harsh. But you taught them something better. You taught them that the galaxy also has kindness. That there are beings who will help strangers. That there are adults who care about children who are not their own. Kira walked around the table until he stood in front of Una. He reached out a hand toward her. Yun. A stood up, not sure what to do. Was she supposed to shake his hand? Bow again? Kiro took her hand gently in both of his paws. His fur was soft and warm. On behalf of the Valari people, I thank you. And I apologize for my harsh words. You are not reckless. You are brave. And that is a rare thing in this galaxy. Una felt tears forming in her eyes. I do not know what to say. I just did what anyone would do. No, Kiro said firmly. Not anyone. Many beings would have waited. Many would have let others handle the problem. Many would have blamed the children and walked away. You did none of those things. You are different. You are human. He released her hand and stepped back. The Valari Council has made a decision. We are requesting that more humans be assigned to work with our cubs. Not just here, but on our home world as well. We want our children to learn from your species. To see your patience, your curiosity, your care. Una blinked. You want human teachers for your children? Yes. Caretakers, mentors, friends, whatever you call them in your language. Kiro almost smiled. The cubs learn by copying, and we have decided that humans are worth copying. The door to the meeting room opened. Small figures rushed inside. Rico, Tao, Meave, and a dozen other cubs ran across the room and surrounded Una, grabbing her legs and her arms in her hands. Una! Una! They cried. Are you staying? Please say you are staying. Una laughed, the sound bright and surprised. She knelt down among them, letting them climb over her. I did not know I was invited to stay. You are invited, Kiro said. If you want to stay, there is a place for you here. With the cubs. With us. Una looked at the small faces around her. Rico with his orange fur and bright eyes. Tall with her gray fur and curious expression. Meave with her white and blue spots, no longer quiet, but chattering happily. She thought of Earth, her home, her family far away. She had come to space to explore, to meet new species, to see things no human had seen before. She had not expected to find a new family. "I will stay," she said softly, "for as long as you will have me." The cubs cheered. They jumped up and down. They copied Yuna's smile with their own wide grins. In the weeks that followed, Yuna became a permanent part of the nursery wing. She taught the cubs about Earth. She showed them pictures and videos of oceans and mountains and cities. She told them stories about humans, about their history and their dreams. And the cubs taught her too. They showed her how to climb trees like a Valari. They taught her words in their language. They shared their games and their songs and their ways of seeing the world. Other humans came to the station. Young teachers and caregivers who wanted to work with alien children. Yuna helped train them. She taught them what she had learned. Be patient. Be calm. Remember that they are always watching. Remember that what you do, they will do. One day, Yuna sat in the garden with Meave. The little cub was growing bigger now, her white fur longer and softer. They watched the fake sun move across the fake sky. "Yuna," Meave said quietly. "Yes, little one? You said stars are family. That old stars make new stars. Like parents and children." "I remember." "That is true." Meave turned to look at her with those big, blue-spotted eyes. "Are we family now? Humans and Valari?" Yuna felt warmth spread through her chest. The same warmth she had felt on that first day when she first met the cubs. The same warmth she felt every day since. "Yes," she said. "I think we are. Not by blood, but by choice. The best families are the ones we choose." Meave leaned against her, small and warm and trusting. "I am glad," she said. "I am glad you came through the door. I am glad you came back when we were scared. I am glad you stayed." Yuna wrapped an arm around the little cub. She looked up at the stars beyond the fake sky, the real stars that burned in the darkness of space. Humans had traveled far to reach those stars. They had built ships and stations and outposts. They had met 1,000 different species. They had made enemies and friends. But maybe the most important thing they could do was this: sitting in a garden, holding a child, teaching and learning and growing together. The galaxy was vast and cold and dangerous. But wherever humans went, they carried something with them. Something warm. Something patient. Something that saw children, any children, as precious. And that was worth more than all the treaties and all the trade deals in the universe. That was what it meant to be human among the stars. The alarm screamed through the halls of Unity Station. Red lights painted everything in shades of blood and danger. Security officers ran through the corridors, their weapons ready, their faces tense. Yuna pushed through the crowds of confused aliens. Species of all kinds were stopping to look at the flashing lights. They spoke in dozens of languages, asking questions nobody could answer. She reached the entrance to the nursery wing. A crowd had already gathered there. Coordinator Vel stood at the front, his forearms waving as he shouted orders to a group of technicians. "Override it. Use the master codes." "We are trying, Coordinator." "The system is not responding." Yuna pushed forward until she reached Vel. "What happened? Are the cubs safe?" Vel turned to look at her. His golden eyes were full of worry. "We do not know. The emergency lockdown sealed the entire wing. No one can get in or out. Communications are blocked. We cannot reach caretaker Miru or any of the cubs." "How is that possible?" "Who triggered the lockdown?" One of the technicians, a small creature with scales and 6 legs, looked up from his screen. "The log says, unknown biometric signatures. Multiple unknown signatures pressed against a door panel at the same time. The system thought it was an attack. Some kind of hacking attempt. So it sealed everything." Yuna felt her heart drop. Unknown signatures. multiple signatures. She remembered how the cubs watched her press her hand on the panel. She remembered their curious eyes. "Oh no," she whispered. "What?" Vel asked sharply. "Do you know something?" Una took a breath. "The cubs. They saw me open doors using the hand panels. They must have tried to copy me. But their signatures are not in the system. When they all touched the panel together, the station thought it was being attacked." Vel stared at her for a long moment. Then he closed his eyes. Of course, they copied you. That is what Valari do." A deep voice spoke from behind them. "This is a disaster." Una turned. A group of adult Valari had arrived. They wore formal robes in dark colors. These were not caretakers. These were the diplomats. The important ones. The speaker was a tall Valari with fur as black as space. His eyes were cold and sharp. He looked at Una with an expression that made her feel small. "Ambassador Kiro," Vel said with a bow, "we are working to solve the problem." "The problem," Ambassador Kiro repeated. His voice was like ice. "You mean the problem that a human caused? The problem that has trapped 37 of our children in a sealed wing with no way out." "It was an accident," Una said quickly. "I did not know they would copy me. I was just opening a door. I did not think, you did not think." Kiro stepped closer to her. He was shorter than her, but in that moment, he seemed to tower over everyone. That is the problem with humans. You act without thinking. You touch without asking. You do things because you can, not because you should. Una felt heat rise to her face. She wanted to defend herself, but she also felt guilty. Kiro was right. She had been careless. She should have been more careful around cubs who learned by copying. "Ambassador," Vel interrupted, "blame will not solve the problem. We need to focus on getting the children out safely." Kiro turned his cold gaze to Vel. "And how do you suggest we do that?" "The station's emergency systems are stronger than anything we have. Those doors are meant to stop attackers. They will not open for us." One of the technicians spoke up. "We can cut through the walls. It will take time, but we have tools that can do it." "How much time?" The technician checked his calculations. 6 to 8 hours. 8 hours? A female Valari stepped forward. She had golden fur and tears in her eyes. "My daughter is in there. She cannot wait 8 hours." "There is enough air and food in the wing," Vel said gently. "The children will be scared, but they will be safe. We just need to be patient." "Patient?" Kiro laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Tell that to terrified children trapped in the dark with alarms screaming. Tell that to caretaker Miru, who is alone with 37 crying cubs. Tell that to their parents, who can do nothing but wait." Una clenched her fists. She could not just stand here and listen to this. She had to do something. This was her fault. She had to fix it. "There has to be another way," she said. "What about the ventilation shafts? Or maintenance tunnels? Stations like this always have secondary access routes." The technician shook his head. "All sealed during lockdown. The emergency protocol closes everything. Every pipe, every shaft, every tunnel. Nothing gets in or out. What about an external approach? Going outside the station and cutting through the outer hull? Too dangerous. The nursery wing is in the center of the station. There is no direct external access." Una ran her hands through her hair. Think. There had to be something. Inside the nursery wing, chaos ruled. Cubs ran in every direction, crying and screaming. The alarms were so loud they hurt their sensitive ears. The red lights made everything look scary and wrong. Caretaker Miru tried to gather them together. She used her calmest voice. She sang soothing songs. But nothing worked. The cubs were too frightened to listen. Rico, Tal, and Meave huddled together in a corner. They were the most scared of all. They knew this was their fault. They had done this by touching the panel. They had trapped everyone. "I am sorry," Rico kept saying. Tears rolled down his furry face. "I am sorry. I am sorry." "We did not know," Tal said, her voice shaking. "We were just copying. We just wanted to open doors like Yuna." Meave did not speak. She just stared at the flashing red lights with wide, terrified eyes. Her small body shook with silent sobs. Miru found them in their corner. She knelt down and wrapped her arms around all three of them. "Hush, little ones. It will be okay. The adults outside will fix this. They will open the doors and let us out." "But we broke it," Rico cried. "We broke the station." "You did not break anything. It was a mistake. Mistakes happen. Even adults make mistakes." Miru held them tighter. "The important thing is that everyone is safe. No one is hurt. We just need to wait. I want my mother," Tal whispered. "I know, dear one. I know." Miru looked around the room. The other cubs were still panicking. Some had hidden under tables. Others were banging on the locked doors. A few of the youngest were sitting on the floor, crying so hard they could barely breathe. She needed help. But she was the only adult inside. She was alone with 37 frightened children and no way to calm them all. Then she heard something. A tapping sound. It came from somewhere above. She looked up at the ceiling, thought the sound came again. Tap, tap. Miru tilted her head. Was someone outside? Could someone hear them? Outside the nursery wing, Yuna pressed her ear against the sealed door. She had been tapping on it, hoping someone inside would hear. "Can you hear anything?" Vel asked. "I do not know. Maybe. I thought I heard movement inside." Ambassador Kiro scoffed. "This is pointless. We should focus on the cutting tools." But Yuna did not give up. She kept tapping. She tapped patterns. Long, short, short, long. Inside, Miru listened. She recognized the pattern. It was a simple rhythm, not random noise. Someone was trying to communicate. She tapped back on the door. Her claws made clicking sounds on the metal. Outside, Yuna heard it. Her heart jumped with hope. Someone is responding. They can hear me. She pressed her mouth close to the door. "Hello? Can you hear my voice?" The door was thick. Her words were muffled and distant. But inside, Miru pressed her ear against the metal. She could hear something. A voice. A female voice. "Yuna?" Miru called out. "Is that you?" Yuna could barely hear the reply. It was like listening to someone speak underwater. But she caught her name. Yes, it is Yuna. Is everyone okay?" "The cubs are frightened but safe. We cannot open the doors." Yuna looked at Vel. "She says they are safe but scared. We need to calm them down somehow. 8 hours is too long for terrified children." Vel nodded slowly. "What do you suggest?" Yuna thought. The cubs learned by copying. They watched and repeated. If they could not see adults being calm, they would stay scared. But if they could see someone acting brave and calm— "I need to get inside," Yuna said. "That is impossible," the technician said. "We already told you, all access is sealed. Then unseal it for me. Just for me. Add my biometric signature to the emergency override." Kiro stepped forward. "You cannot be serious. A human caused this problem, and now you want to send a human inside to fix it? I know the cubs. I spent time with them today. They trust me. If I can get inside, I can show them that there is nothing to fear. They will copy my calmness. They will stop panicking. And how do you propose we get you inside? Magic?" Yuna turned to the technician. You said the lockdown was triggered by unknown biometrics. What if you added a known signature to the system? One that the emergency protocol would recognize as safe. The technician's 6 legs tapped nervously. Theoretically possible, but it would take time to process. And even then, the doors might not open. The lockdown protocol has multiple layers. How much time to process? 2 hours. Maybe less. Do it. Yuna looked at Ambassador Kiro. 2 hours to add my signature. Then I go inside and calm the cubs. That is faster than cutting through walls. Kiro stared at her. His cold eyes searched her face, looking for something. Deception, maybe. Or weakness. He found neither. Fine, he said at last. Try your human trick. But if you fail, human, you will answer for it. You will answer for every tear those children shed. Yuna nodded. I understand. I will not fail. The space station floated in the darkness between 2 distant stars. It was huge, bigger than any city on Earth. Thousands of different species lived there together. They called it Unity Station. It was a place where the galaxy came together to talk, trade, and learn from each other. Yuna stood near a large window and looked outside. She could see ships coming and going. Small ones, big ones. Some looked like metal boxes. Others looked like living creatures with wings. She had been in space for 3 months now, but she still felt wonder every time she looked out at the stars. She was 28 years old. Her black hair was tied back in a simple ponytail. She wore the gray uniform of the human diplomatic corps. There was a small blue patch on her shoulder that showed Earth. She was one of only 50 humans on this station. Humans were still new to the galactic community. They had only made first contact 12 years ago. Miss Yuna? A voice said behind her dot. She turned around. A tall creature stood there. It had blue skin and 4 arms. Its eyes were large and golden. This was Coordinator Vel. He was in charge of the station's cultural exchange programs. Yes, I am ready, Yuna said with a small bow. Vel made a sound that might have been a laugh. You humans and your bowing. It is charming. Please, follow me. The Velari delegation is waiting. They walked together through the long hallways of the station. The floors were made of something that looked like glass, but felt soft under Yuna's feet. Lights in the ceiling changed color as they walked, shifting from blue to green to soft yellow. Tell me again about the Velari, Yuna said. I read the reports, but I want to hear it from you. Vel nodded with 2 of his arms folded behind his back. The Velari are a peaceful species. They come from a world covered in forests. They are, how do you humans say it? Fuzzy? Furry, Yuna corrected with a smile. Yes, furry. They look something like your earth animals called cats, but they stand on 2 legs and are about the size of human children. Their most important trait is how they learn. They learn by copying, by mimicking. Their young ones, the cubs, watch everything and repeat it. It is how their culture passes knowledge from one generation to the next. Yuna nodded slowly. So they learn by watching, not by reading or listening. Correct. For Velari, seeing is learning. If a cub sees an adult do something, the cub will do it too. This makes them very fast learners. But it also means they need careful teachers. If they see something wrong, they will copy that too. They reached a large door. It was painted with colors that Yuna had never seen before. Colors that had no name in any human language. Vel pressed a button on the wall, and the door slid open. The room inside was like a garden. There were plants everywhere. Trees with purple leaves grew from the floor. Soft grass covered the ground. A small stream ran through the middle of the room, making gentle sounds. The ceiling showed a fake sky with clouds and a sun that was more orange than Earth's sun. "This is the nursery wing," Belle explained. "The Valari brought 37 cubs with them on their ship. The cubs stay here while the adults attend meetings and negotiations." Una stepped inside and felt the warm air on her skin. It smelled sweet, like flowers and honey. She could hear soft sounds coming from somewhere deeper in the garden. Chirping, laughing, the sounds of children playing. Why did they bring children to a diplomatic mission? Una asked. For the Valari, children are not separate from adult life. They believe cubs must see everything to learn everything. These cubs are watching their parents work with other species. They are learning how to be diplomats by being here. They walked along a stone path through the garden. Soon, Una saw them. The Valari cubs thought they were beautiful. Their fur was different colors. Some were orange like autumn leaves. Some were gray like storm clouds. Others were white like fresh snow. They had big round eyes that seemed to glow in the soft light. Their ears were large and pointed, always moving, always listening. There were about 20 cubs in this part of the garden. Some were climbing trees. Others were playing in the stream, splashing water at each other. A few were sitting in a circle, watching something on a floating screen. When Una entered, all activity stopped. Every single cub turned to look at her, 40 eyes fixed on her face. The silence was sudden and complete. Una felt her heart beat faster. She was not afraid. She was excited. She loved children, even alien children. Especially alien children. "Hello," she said softly. She raised her hand and waved. The cubs did not move. They just watched. Their eyes followed her hand as it moved through the air. An adult Valari approached. She was taller than the cubs, about the height of Una's shoulder. Her fur was silver with black spots. She wore a simple robe made of green cloth. "I am Caretaker Miru," the adult said. Her voice was soft and musical. "You are the human?" "Yes, my name is Una. I am here for the cultural exchange visit." Miru studied her carefully. "We have heard of humans. You are young in the stars, but you have done much in little time. The cubs are curious about you." Una looked at the cubs again. They had moved closer. Not walking, just appearing closer somehow. Like they had all taken small steps while she was not looking. "Can I say hello to them?" Una asked. Miru made a gesture that might have been a nod. "You may, but be careful with your actions. Remember, they learn by watching. Everything you do, they will try to do." Una walked toward the cubs slowly. She kept her movements gentle. She knelt down on one knee so she was closer to their height. "Hello, little ones," she said. "My name is Una. I am a human. I come from a planet called Earth. It is very far from here." The cubs looked at each other. Then one of them stepped forward. It was a small cub with orange fur and bright green eyes. It opened its mouth and made a sound. "Hello," the cub said, copying Una's word. Una felt warmth spread through her chest. She smiled wide. "Very good. What is your name?" The orange cub tilted its head. Then it pointed at itself with a small paw. "Rico. Hello, Rico. It is nice to meet you." Another cub stepped forward. This one had gray fur. "I am Tal." Then another. White fur with blue spots. "Leave." Soon all the cubs were coming closer, saying their names, trying to copy the way Una spoke. The garden filled with small voices saying, "Hello," and "nice," and "meet you," in broken but eager attempts. Una laughed. It was a genuine, happy laugh. She had traveled across the stars, far from her home, far from everyone she loved. But in this moment, surrounded by curious children with fur and big eyes, she did not feel lonely at all. Caretaker Miru watched from a distance. There was something in her golden eyes, something like concern. Or maybe it was hope. It was hard to tell with Valari expressions. She is gentle, Miru said quietly to Coordinator Vel, who stood beside her. Humans often are, Vel replied. With children, at least. They have a strong instinct to protect and teach the young. Even the young of other species. The cubs like her. Yes, but remember what you told her. They will copy everything she does. Everything. Miru's ears moved backward slightly. It was a sign of worry in Valari body language. I know. That is what concerns me. Humans are so different from us. They touch things. They press buttons. They open doors without thinking. Our cubs have never seen beings who interact with the world the way humans do. Vel was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke. Perhaps that is exactly what they need to see. The galaxy is full of different beings. If the cubs learn to watch and adapt to all of them, they will be stronger for it. Or they will learn things they should not learn. In the garden, Yuna was showing the cubs her hands. She wiggled her fingers, and the cubs tried to wiggle their paws the same way. They laughed at how different their bodies were. None of them knew what would happen later. None of them knew that this simple visit would change everything. The cubs were watching. The cubs were learning. And soon, they would show everyone exactly how much they had learned. But for now, there was only laughter and curiosity and the beginning of something new. She hoped she was telling the truth. 2 hours felt like forever. Yuna sat on the floor outside the nursery wing, her back against the cold wall. Around her, people worked and argued and worried. Technicians typed on their screens. Parents paced back and forth. Ambassador Kiro stood with his arms crossed, watching everything with his ice-cold eyes. Every few minutes, Yuna tapped on the door. And every few minutes, Miru tapped back. It was their way of saying, I am still here. You are not alone. The Valari parents had gathered nearby. Some of them looked at Yuna with anger. Others looked at her with something like hope. A few even came to sit beside her. Waiting in silence, one mother with golden fur sat down next to Yuna. It was the same mother who had cried earlier about her daughter being inside. I am Sona, the mother said quietly. My daughter is called Yoon. She has white fur and blue spots. She is very shy. Yuna remembered the cub called Meave, white fur with blue spots. I met her today. She was quiet, but she seemed very thoughtful. She said that stars are like family. Sona made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. That sounds like her. She thinks about everything so deeply. When she was born, she did not cry. She just looked around at the world with big, curious eyes. Yuna reached out and touched Sona's arm gently. I will find her when I get inside. I will make sure she is okay. Sona looked at Yuna with wet eyes. You are young. Younger than me. And you are going into that locked place to help our children. Why? Because it is my fault they are trapped. And because... Yuna paused. Because in my culture, we believe that all children deserve protection. Not just our own children. All children, everywhere. Even alien children? There are no alien children. There are just children. Small and curious and innocent. They are the same on every world. Sona was quiet for a long moment. Then she leaned her head against Yuna's shoulder. Thank you, human. Thank you for caring. Finally, a technician called out. It is done. Her signature is in the system. Yuna stood up quickly. Her legs had gone numb from sitting, but she ignored the pain. She walked to the door panel. Remember, the technician said, the system might still resist. Press your hand firmly. Do not move until the door opens. Yuna nodded. She took a deep breath. She pressed her palm against the panel. For a moment, nothing happened. The panel flickered through colors. Yellow, orange, red. Yuna's heart pounded. Please work, please. Then, finally, green dot the door slid open. Yuna did not hesitate. She stepped through before anyone could stop her. The door closed behind her, and she was inside the nursery wing. The first thing she noticed was the sound. Crying. So much crying. It came from everywhere, echoing off the walls like a wave of sadness. The second thing she noticed was the darkness. The red emergency lights barely lit the hallway. Shadows stretched across the floor like reaching hands. Yuna walked forward. Her footsteps echoed. She followed the sound of the crying until she reached the main garden room. It was nothing like before. The beautiful plants were wilted in the harsh red light. The stream still flowed, but it looked like blood in the darkness. Cubs were scattered everywhere, huddled in groups or alone, all of them crying or shaking. Caretaker Miru saw her first. The silver-furred adult ran to her and grabbed her hands. "You came. How did you get inside?" "The technicians added my signature to the system. The door recognized me." Yuna looked around at the chaos. "Where are Rico, Tal, and Meave?" "In the corner, by the big tree. They will not move. They think they caused all of this. They did cause it, but not on purpose. I need to talk to them." Yuna walked across the garden. Cubs saw her passing. Some of them stopped crying. They watched her with red, swollen eyes. A human was here. The human from before. She was walking calmly. She was not afraid. One by one, the cubs started to calm down. Not completely, but their sobs became quieter. Their shaking became less. Yuna found Rico, Tal, and Meave under the big tree with purple leaves. They were pressed together in a pile of fur and tears. When they saw her, they froze. "Yuna," Rico whispered. His voice cracked. Yuna knelt down in front of them. She kept her face calm. She kept her voice soft. "Hello, little ones. I heard you had a bit of trouble today. We are sorry." Tal burst out. "We are so sorry. We just wanted to open the door like you. We did not know it would break." She. Yuna held up her hands. "It is okay. You did not break anything. The station is just being very careful. It thought something bad was happening, so it locked all the doors. It was trying to protect everyone. But we are trapped," Meave whispered. "We cannot get out. We can get out. We just need to tell the station that everything is okay. And I am going to need your help to do that." The three cubs looked at each other. Their ears perked up slightly. "Our help?" "Yes. You started this by touching the panels together. So we will fix it by touching the panels together. But this time, we will do it the right way. Will you help me?" Rico wiped his eyes with his paw. "We will help." Yuna stood up and turned to address all the cubs in the room. She raised her voice so everyone could hear. "Cubs of Valari, listen to me. I know you are scared. I know the lights and sounds are frightening. But I need you to be brave now. Can you do that? Can you be brave for a little while?" The cubs looked at her. They saw a tall human standing straight and strong. Her voice did not shake. Her eyes did not show fear. She was calm. She was in control. I learned by copying. And what they saw in Yuna was courage. One by one, the cubs stopped crying. They sat up straighter. They watched Yuna carefully, ready to copy her next move. "Good," Yuna said with a warm smile. "Very good. Now, here is what we are going to do." She explained her plan. The lockdown had been triggered by unknown signatures on the door panel. But now, Yuna's signature was in the system. If she touched the panel and sent a signal that everything was safe, the lockdown should end. But to be sure, she needed the three cubs who started this to be there with her. "When I touch the panel, I want you three to touch it too. But wait until I say so. We will do it together, slowly and carefully. The station will see that we are not attackers. It will see that we are friends. And it will open the doors. Miru stepped forward. Will this work? I believe it will. The system knows me now. And it will learn the cubs too. This will teach it that Valari and humans can work together. They walked through the garden toward the main control panel. All the cubs followed them. It was like a parade again, just like before. But this time, the cubs were not just curious. They were determined. The control panel was on the wall near the main door. It was larger than the other panels, with more buttons and lights. This was the master control for the entire wing. Yuna stood in front of it. Rico, Tal, and Meave stood beside her. The other cubs gathered behind them, watching with wide eyes. Are you ready? Yuna asked the three cubs. They nodded. Their faces were still damp with tears, but their eyes were steady. Okay, on the count of 3. 1. The cubs tensed. 2. They raised their paws. 3. Yuna pressed her palm against the panel. At the same moment, Rico, Tal, and Meave pressed their paws beside her hand. The panel lit up. Colors danced across its surface. Yellow, orange, then blue, then green. Bright, beautiful green. The alarm stopped. The silence was sudden and shocking. After hours of screaming sirens, the quiet felt like a miracle dot. Then the lights changed. The red emergency lights faded. Normal lights came on, soft and warm and gentle. A voice spoke from the ceiling. Lockdown ended. All systems returning to normal. Doors unlocking. All around the wing, doors slid open. Fresh air flowed in from the rest of the station. And through the main entrance came parents, running as fast as they could. Sona found Meave and swept her up in her arms, crying and laughing at the same time. Other parents found their cubs and held them close. The garden filled with reunions, with tears of joy, with families coming together. Yuna stood back and watched. She felt tears in her own eyes. Happy tears. Tired tears. Tears of relief. Coordinator Vel entered the garden. He walked to Yuna and stopped in front of her. You did it, he said simply. The cubs did it. I just helped them fix their mistake. Vel looked at her for a long moment. Then he smiled, a rare expression on his blue face. You helped them turn a mistake into a lesson. That is what good teachers do. Rico, Tal, and Meave ran up to Yuna. They grabbed her legs and hugged her tightly. Thank you, Yuna, Rico said. Thank you for coming back. Yuna knelt down and hugged them all. Thank you for being so brave. I am proud of all of you. In the doorway, Ambassador Kiro watched the scene. His cold eyes had thawed just a little. He said nothing, but for the first time, he did not look at Yuna with anger. He looked at her with respect.